Welcome to the Common Council of the City of Connersville, August 3rd, 2020 meeting. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Tommy Williams.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and pray for this meeting. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, it is a privilege to come to you in prayer just now. Father, we praise you for creation. And we praise you, Father, for the rain that makes the crops grow day in and day out. We just rely upon you in every way. Father, I just pray just now for this meeting with the City Council. Father, I just pray that you'll bless these elected officials as they have chosen their ability to come and lead this community, make good decisions for the betterment of each one. Father, just bless them as they do their work here tonight. And Father, we just pray for our country during this time. Father, we would just pray that somehow we can come together in love and in respect and do better for each other than what we've done. And Father, these last few months have been difficult for us as individuals and as a city and as a country. I just pray, Father, that we can all stick together and do the things that we need to do to be able to stay safe and stay healthy. And Father, we just pray for this virus. We know, Father, that many have been involved in that. And I just learned today, Father, that Dick Blink, who was assistant superintendent here for many years, has the virus. I just pray, Father, that you'll be able to heal him. Father, allow him to feel the warmth of our prayers just now in his regard. And we know, Father, that there are many others that we're not aware of. We just lift them up to you as well. And Father, we're thankful for your Son, Jesus, who came to this place to provide for us an opportunity of eternal life, but also, Father, abundant life each and every day. Be with these people just now as they meet. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Okay, if you would, please a reminder, please turn your cell phone ringers in the off position. And we will start with roll call.
Councilman Warner.
Here.
Councilwoman Barrett.
Present.
Councilman Williams Jr.
Here.
Councilwoman Phillips.
Present.
Councilman Robb.
Here.
Councilman Gray.
Present.
Councilman Nettie.
Present.
Okay, again, if you're in the facility, please wear a mask. The seats are spaced out 6 feet, so you're fine. We are all spaced out, so we're fine. We sanitize the room before and after every meeting, so we should be good. So I just appreciate, if you cannot social distance, please wear a mask as the governor's orders. Start some new business. Mr. Nettie, item A, start out with council reappointments.
Wait, let's do
Minutes.
minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Getting ahead of myself. Everyone has a meeting for the July 20th, 2020 regular meeting. Any additions or corrections? You have to entertain a motion to approve.
So.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Now, Mr. Nettie, you have the floor.
The City Council currently has 2 vacancies to be filled. They are the Council Vice President and the Council Representative on Economic Development Group. So I'd like to open up declarations and nominations for these positions, starting with the Council Vice President. Is there a declaration or nomination for Vice President, City Council?
I would like to declare.
Are there any other nominations or declarations for Vice President, City Council? Seeing none, I'll close those nominations. And with one nominee, Councilwoman Phillips, Vice President of the City Council. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The other position is a council representative on EDG, Economic Development Group. I'll open up the floor for nominations or declarations for EDG representative, or council representative on EDG.
I declare.
Mr. Williams? Any other declarations or nominations for representative of Economic Development Group? Hearing none, I'll close those nominations. And with one nominee, Mr. Williams, you are a representative on Economic Development Group. Thank you.
Thank you, I'll have to.
There's no further,
Okay.
no further positions, so I turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item B, approval of pending orders 3583, got all backwards. This is in order to set up funds for the insurance. We have 3 funds, and that is one for cable, police, and fire. Any other questions or comments on that? No, I'm gonna take a motion that we approve pending orders 3583
On first reading.
on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Have a motion, we suspend the rules.
A motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, to suspend the rules, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And a motion for a third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. I'd like to publicly thank Rosemary and her office on this. She's been working her tail off on this, they all have. It's been quite the transition. It's been a bigger giant than we anticipated, but her and her office is doing a fantastic job just navigating all the issues. I just want to publicly say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item C. I know she hates it when I do that, but she needs it. Approval of pending orders 3584. Rosemary?
It's an ordinance transferring $13,500 from clerk treasurer fringe benefits, and all of these are going into DOT repair of equipment. City Hall, other employees, $9,400. Council, $113, the grant appropriation, $11,700. Council ordinance books, $1,000. $1,400 coming off clerk treasurer premium off bonds. Council, $395. Animal shelter, taking out $12,000 of that, and council 911 taking $6,000 out of that, totaling $55,000 into DOT repair of equipment. And yes, this is to repair the trash truck.
Questions?
That's our older one?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Much needed,
Yeah.
unfortunately. If not, I'll take a motion to approve pending orders 3584
On first reading.
on first reading. I remember saying.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Gotta speak up, I'm deaf. All in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And motion for third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carried, thank you. Okay, item, if council would like, I think D, E, and F could all go together, if that's okay with you.
Resolution 2020-52 is a resolution to reimburse $850 into the police telephone. Resolution 2020-53 is a resolution to reimburse $174.30 into MVH street signs and signals. Resolution 2020-54 is a resolution to transfer $5,201.28 from HHS COVID fund into the EMS other employee fund. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. That's the total that's coming out of the HS COVID fund $1,941.12 is going into the EMS other employees. $3,260.16 is going into the EMS overtime.
Questions on that? If not, go ahead and make a motion to approve.
Make that motion, sir?
Second. We have a motion motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Okay, item G. Approval of resolution 2020-55, the build, operate, and transfer. I do have an expert here that's going to help explain some of this. He is the, I don't want to say guru, but he is the guru behind a lot of this. I'll explain to you how I understand it, and then Mr. Marks can come up and explain it from his point of view. There is an IC code that allows governments to fund projects differently than bonds. Is that an easy way to say that? Bonds are good, but they're expensive. And plug your ears, Jeff, the only two people who make money are lawyers, insurance companies, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, various forms.
Okay. But, you know, bonds is how we've been able to fund a lot of our utility projects, but there is another way. And it does not require bonds, and it allows us to use local contractors if so appropriate. It allows us to do a lot of different things, and it saves us quite a bit of money because I'm not having to pay the bonds. What this is a resolution that is worded exactly the way it needs to be worded in order to work with the state IC code. And so there might be some question on language. That's why Greg's here. He can explain it to you. You say, what are we borrowing money for? I don't know the answer to that. I have a lot of projects, and they're willing to do some of the legwork to show us feasibilities and different things, and that's a huge benefit to us. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But this provides us the ordinance we need in order to pursue the Indiana IC code on how we finance and fund projects. Is that a good way of saying that? If you want to come on up, you're more than welcome to elaborate more.
Sure. My name is Greg Martz. I'm with GM Development. I think one thing you should know is a little bit of the history of the law, because I think if you understand that, it'll help you understand how the law works. Originally, it was under a different code, but the first time this law came into existence was in about 1979, and it was created for the Hoosier Dome. So back when the state was trying to recruit the Colts to Indiana is the whole reason this law even exists. But when they created that law, they put in a provision that back then only Marion County could use it. And so for over a decade, actually about 20 years, they were the only community in the whole state that could use it. State legislature changed that and recodified it to this 523 here a few years back. And so now any community in the state can use it, but the reason that you have to vote via resolution to adopt this statute is because it was an existing statute that you couldn't use before, and now you can. So by voting tonight, all you're simply doing is putting this tool in your tool belt. So what you're not doing is tonight you are not voting, to get into debt. You're not voting to approve a project, nothing like that. You're simply voting to adopt this statute, which means that in the future you can use it for a project. So the way that would work, if you were to adopt this statute tonight, what that would mean is that in the future, let's say there was some project that mayor or you wanted to investigate as a potential opportunity. Let's say you had a fire station renovation or something along those lines. Then the mayor's office would put out a request for proposals in the newspaper, so it'd be available for anyone in the public to respond to. And once those proposals were received, the mayor and whatever committee you would establish for that specific project. So if it was like a fire station, a lot of times your fire chief would be on a committee with that, those sorts of things. Would review those proposals. That committee cannot get the city into debt or anything along those lines. All the law is doing is having this special committee form a recommendation that then is presented to the council at a future date. So in other words, by adopting this tonight, you are not allowing a committee to enter the city into debt in the future, nothing like that. All you're allowing is that committee to make a recommendation to you. Any time you would ever enter into a debt or do a project, it would still require your approval at a future date. So, so again, all you're doing tonight is putting this tool in your tool belt. If you have a project in the future that you wanted to use, then it just streamlines it so that mayor can put out an RFP and then form a recommendation to bring back to you for that project. And then as far as financing, the reason it is cheaper on the financing side, lower issuance costs, is actually because now Jeff can handle it himself. He doesn't need a bond attorney backing him up. So that's where the expense comes in, because the big firms, you know, are $600 an hour sort of thing. Jeff obviously isn't, I would imagine.
We're still taking care of you, Jeff.
So these documents are very simple loan transactions with the bank that Jeff could handle on his own. So that's why you see so much savings underneath this type of financing.
This is something utilities can utilize.
Yes.
That's something that every branch can utilize, so that's why I say, what specific project you have in mind? I don't. I met Greg, how many years ago was that, Greg? Probably 4 years ago, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
And just fascinated with his business model. I picked his brain forever. He still wouldn't tell me everything. I tried, but it was a tool, because I was on City Council and I was trying to learn. I was like, man, whatever you're doing, I love it. I like the model. And as that relationship developed, once I became mayor, I think I called him and said, hey, I still want to get your model here because I think we can utilize it. I don't know what for, so if you're thinking what project, I have no idea. But I've got several projects in mind, but that doesn't mean I won't do anything. But I want to get this established because I think it's a good resource to have. If we do decide to move forward, I think it's already done, we can start moving forward. Just thinking ahead is what I'm doing here.
And the only final note I have for you is you are not the guinea pig here. We've just me, I've done probably about 85 projects with this statute. So you are definitely not, you know, entering into uncharted territory here. There's dozens and dozens of communities that have already adopted it. So.
Any questions for him while he's here?
Yeah, I have one, please.
Yes.
Under section 4, no conflict, it says that resolution cannot be repealed, amended, etc. Is that only as long as an agreement with some loan official or something is in place?
You just hit it on the head. That's exactly right. So the bank, if you ever do use this in the future to enter into financing, the bank will be looking for that in that resolution, just to know that you won't try and repeal it while the loan is still out. So that's exactly right. Yep.
Any other questions? Everybody's quiet tonight, man. You got an easy night. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'd like to ask for approval of resolution 20-55.
Probably need to do a roll call vote.
I move, Mr. Mayor, I would move we pass resolution 2020-55.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second, roll call vote. Rosemary?
Councilman Williams Jr.,
Yay.
Councilman Phillips,
Aye.
Councilman Robb,
Yes.
Councilman Gray,
Yes.
Councilman Nutty,
Yes.
Councilman Warner,
Yay.
Councilman Barrett.
Yes.
Okay, so, folks, thank you very much. Okay, move on to item H. Clarence, you want to take this?
Sure. This, one of them is a nuisance ordinance, which I condensed to cover the city of Connersville. Our present ordinance is like, I think 9 sections long, and this reduces it to cover all our ordinances, all our needs for the city of Connersville as far as nuisance goes. Including grass, sidewalks, trees, property unkept, buildings unsafe and unkept. We have any input on it from the council, I'd like to turn it over to the city attorney and let him put his magic touch on it.
Clarence, as you know, I've spoken with the entire ordinance committee,
Two of us.
both of you. And I think it's an ordinance that does need attention. But as we have discussed, I think there's things in here that needs to be updated from what it says. And I assume that you, the committee, will do that first.
Right. I mean,
Some of the,
what is your concern at this time?
Well, the vegetation, for instance, that might have to be clarified, because they can't be, no vegetation at all in green areas can be more than 8 inches tall. I have flowers taller than that. So, you know, something like that would have to be tweaked. And when I first read this, I think I have a clarification where it says, trees over the streets have to be kept 14 feet in height. That sounded like to me that a tree itself had to be no more than 14 feet high.
That's meaning the limbs over, hanging over the street.
Yeah, she explained that to me, but I thought the way it read, it sounded like the tree can't be more than 14 feet high.
Right.
So I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, that needs to be clear, that's my question too. It sounds like the tree can only be 14 feet tall, and
Right,
that's
it's the
it.
clearance.
You're
the
looking for clearance height for
Right.
underneath passage.
Right.
Just like the 8
Same
foot,
way with the sidewalks.
the 8 foot on the sidewalks, yeah, that's a clearance rather than the entire tree.
And Jeff's, you know, told us that he would clear all this up, and we just need approval to go ahead and have him clear it up and verify these things that we want to do.
And I think it's not, our ordinances are so hard for anybody to read. And I think and we even asked Jeff in the meeting, how are we gonna enforce this? Well, the ordinance enforcer or somebody has a complaint or whatever can issue the complaint, and the judge would issue the ruling as to its merit. It doesn't have to, every single thing doesn't have to be spelled out in that book. That book there is, I mean, it's way too.
There's certain guidelines that we have to follow, as Jeff knows.
Right,
But they can issue a summons,
right.
and they can either correct a problem without any other issues of hardship, or they can continue with the problem and they can go to court and deal with the court system and get a fine, and then they have the city or whoever needs to come in and reduce the height of the tree, make the height of the tree proper, so the city trucks and fire trucks and everything can get under. The same way with the sidewalks. The street department does alleys as well, because they can't get through those.
And by the same token, the judge could deem that it's not a violation and could deem that it's okay.
Right.
I mean, it could be either way. It's not necessarily
It's
that,
not always gonna be our way.
right, it's not always gonna be our way, but it's more, you're leaving the legal fees to the legal department.
Absolutely.
We're not making the decisions as to who does what and, what's wrong, what's not right. They will issue the summons, and it'll be the duty of the court to determine
Right.
what action needs to be taken.
Jeff, is it okay to have something in an ordinance that is kind of a general statement and then leave it up to someone to decide? Like if the owner permits dangerous conditions to exist, who considers it dangerous?
Well, so generally that would, dangerous would be defined somewhere else in the ordinance.
Okay.
I think we can't cover every single circumstance that would ever happen, right? And there's always going to be language that can be manipulated in a different way. I think the big thing I would like direction from you guys is to essentially content-wise look at these is this the content you wanna have? Because I think the board right now, is really pushing to clean up each section, okay? So right now, our public nuisance, section, it might be 8 pages, but then it's covered in other sections too, right? So the big thing to know is, let's make sure we get the content specific that we want on public nuisance. Let's clean that section up, and then invariably, there will be other sections that are in conflict with that, and we'll clean those up as we find them. But it would be almost impossible to be able to look through this and know that it doesn't conflict with anything else. Because I can tell you one thing you're missing, not missing, but I think it's an intentional omission, is there's nothing about animals. There's not, dogs barking and things like that, because there's an animal section as well. So I think the main thing that these two are going to do, at least I'm hoping that this is the way it works, is that these two find things that they think that needs remedied. They bring it to you guys. You guys kind of make sure that the content is correct. Okay, make sure that it's got, as you think about public nuisance, all the things you could consider or you would want to have an ordinance regarding public nuisance is in this. And then I'll clean it up. It'll look a lot different, and I'll make it the way I think it should be. And then you guys will have time to review that and look at it. I mean, if we're going to clean up this book, this isn't a 2-week, 2-month, 6-month process. I mean, this is going to take some time. So I think early on we're going to kind of get our bearings. But I think the big thing from the council, to me at least, is make sure that you're getting the content that you want. Okay, is there something missing that you wish were in there? A lot of things I'm gonna clean. Common sense is going to dictate that he didn't mean all vegetation can't be 8 inches taller, right? He didn't mean that all plants and bushes can't be 8 inches or taller. I'll clean that stuff up. Just make sure we're getting the right content. Make sure we're not missing things that you guys think are important that we've encountered in the past. Okay.
And I will say that we have cooperation from Judge Freed.
Absolutely, he's been.
He's completely behind us. He's been over backwards to help us out with this, so we're very thankful for that.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that? None? Okay, move on to the discussion on the UTV ordinance. I'm assuming that's why everyone's here.
This proposal of an ordinance is to allow UTVs or side-by-sides, however you want to phrase it, to utilize the streets of the city of Connersville. One of the reasons why I looked into this a little bit more than probably most is being in law enforcement. I've seen many times where we need access to vehicles like you guys are proposing to ride on the streets. And there's many times it ends up in the river bottom. And I think if we had access to your numbers and that sort of stuff, I'm sure that we'd be able to find 1 or 2 people that would be willing to help us out. In the fire department, police department, there's been many times I've had people down on the river that we can't get cars to or first aid units to, and that sort of thing. But this is all based off of other ordinances. It's also has the Indiana code numbers in here so you can reference to them, which allows certain uses, not allowing you to drive up down the highways, as you know. You're only allowed to drive across, and on city streets, all the vehicles must be equipped with all the same equipment that as a car or a truck would have: turn signals, brake lights, all this sort of thing. Mufflers. Must follow the rules as far as under the age of 18, that person has to have a helmet if it's riding in that vehicle. And that's standard law also. I pretty much, I think, covered most of it. If there's any violations of any of this ordinance, if it's passed, there'll be a fine, and at a period of time you'll be suspended from driving your UTV on the streets of the city of Connersville.
And for the sake of the audience or whatever, it does state that operators must be 18 years or older with a valid operator's license. no passengers unless it's designed for passengers. And he said you have to, if the passenger is under 18 years of age, helmet's required. And that, no UTV side-by-side shall be on the city streets from midnight to 6 a.m. You might want to put that in there unless requested by local law enforcement, if that's what you're saying as far as the.
Oh, I had a question when that was put in there.
Jeff can answer that question, but I think if you have a first aid unit or a law enforcement officer ask for assistance, it's a violation not to give them assistance.
Okay, so that doesn't, no, I think he's asking why you put
Why
no.
are they not allowed from midnight to 6 a.m. would be my question. They have mufflers, they have lights, they have
If I
turn
may,
signals.
what I read, because I looked at these Indiana codes that you cited, and we've already discussed those, that vehicles that have no lighting are not allowed on the road 30 minutes before sunset and 30 minutes
Right.
after dusk. Now, if we want to just say none at all between midnight and 6, I mean, I won't argue that. But what I read in the Indiana codes was if there was no lighting.
So if they have lighting and turn signals, they can run all 24 hours. Is my
Way
question.
I read it.
By state statute.
Well,
But
We'll have to look at the state statute. I
you
don't
know,
know.
the
I read a
answer,
whole bunch of this stuff and I have to read over it
the
again.
answer I got on this from what I've read on other ordinances, and the reason for that is visibility, because usually the lights are smaller, and I think they're more concerned about visibility late at night.
If anything, they're lit more.
I was gonna say they're letting more now. My motorcycle's got one little bitty light.
Well, I'm talking about from cars versus UTVs.
I know,
No,
I'm
no,
just,
they're lit.
I mean,
Yeah, most of them actually got brights on.
from what I've seen,
They
they're
have
well
low beam,
lit.
high beams,
Yeah.
and pretty much all the newer ones have the upgraded LED lighting, just like the modern car
but the
owner
time
did.
limits can always be changed.
I just wonder if that
Always-
was the reason for is there an IC code on that?
And they,
I mean, why put one more thing you have to police?
What do you mean?
but this is, of course, we're just discussing it, it's not a real
Oh,
debate.
yeah.
Right.
But I remember when Chris was here, he mentioned that they would use it to run in town, to go to restaurants and get gas and stuff like that. And if this passed, I would not object midnight to 6, because that doesn't correlate with what he said was the need. But we've got a lot of discussion before it ever becomes an ordinance.
Yeah, I personally don't see the reason to keep them off the roads from midnight to 6. They're well lit, they got road cages, they got turn signals. I don't see the reason, it's more the police too. And just for further discussion, just so you know, there is one brand new UTV, because I got a call. Did you pass an ordinance? I said, no. Why'd I see a UTV going up Park Road? They're on a state road, they're not supposed to be there. Well, if you have a Honda,
Talon.
whatever that thing's called, Talon, you can actually get a license plate on that thing. So the guy went to the license branch, got it licensed, called our chief of police, called the state police. Yep, they can ride on any road.
A Talon,
Yes.
and I think you can also plate razors. So,
Whatever the license branch tells you, because you can legally.
On
put
the
it.
razors, the body type at the top of the title says OR. That's the difference between the Honda. The Honda says motorcycle.
So in reality, it's gonna be tough, because some of these guys can ride right down the highway right now. And even with
But
this
they're
ordinance.
they're not classified as UTVs, right?
So,
They're
yeah, it's a
Honda or
It's a
something like
UTV, it's identical.
Yeah, they're all the
These guys-
same.
It's like a Ford and a Chevy.
Yeah,
You know.
basically just a
that.
brand.
I mean, I thought you said that it was like a motorcycle, or it is a motorcycle.
They're
I was
License.
They titled it as a motorcycle, so
They
you're
titled
able
it.
to take the title to the DMV, yes, like to put plates on my motorcycle.
So it's considered a motorcycle then if they're.
It's in that
placed on
category, I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
it's identical to these other ones, but this is the way that the manufacturer titled it. So we've got UTVs running right up Park Road on every highway interstate right now. that can legally do it.
Mr. Mayor, may I offer, and Clarence, I know you've worked hard on the ordinance, but if we follow the state statute or state code, is there a need for an ordinance?
To run on the streets, yes.
Yeah, I believe,
No. And again, Clarence, I know you've done a
That's
lot of
good.
research, but I think if you read the statute, it doesn't prohibit operation except on state highways.
that's a turning question, right?
So your contention is right now you can drive, because there's no city ordinance, you can drive in any city in the state of Indiana that does not have an ordinance.
Yeah, and we found 2 cities in the state of Indiana that did have ordinances. And once I found that out, I didn't pursue it any further. That was Greensburg and Brownsville, I think, have a specific ordinance. But we don't even have a county ordinance. And I think when Chris spoke before, we were under the impression that there was a county ordinance. Jim Wolf checked with the sheriff, and I guess there had been an ordinance at one time. They let it lapse or whatever they did, and deferred to following the state regulation.
That's good to know.
So, I mean, again, based on that, I don't know if there's even the need for an ordinance unless you want to restrict certain activities.
I'm glad you said that, because I have a copy of the county ordinance, which came in 2015. You're saying that
According to what Mr. Wolf told me, he spoke with the sheriff, and the sheriff said that they did not have an ordinance in place, so.
Because you guys research.
Yeah.
The only other
That's
reason
the case,
why
it's simple.
I suggested ordinance 2 is number of contacts, like I said, so that emergency services can utilize your services if need
And I'm
be.
sure that each operator would be more than happy to do that. I mean,
Well, I'm sure they would. I mean, knowing you guys, you're all willing to help us out anytime we can. So, my understanding is it doesn't give you permission to ride on the streets, but I'm not an attorney, from what I read.
Neither am I, but again,
It specifies that there should be an ordinance.
and again, I'm not arguing that point, I'm just
I
sharing.
understand.
As a matter of fact, I shouldn't even be talking because it's Chris's job.
You look like a Chris.
We did.
Poor guy's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, but, you still have a voice.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And I welcome everybody's voice. I mean, I'm sure the council does too.
Yeah. I can't see who's out, sorry, chief,
I guess.
anybody have anything to say on this?
Yeah, I guess these would appear to be much safer than the mopeds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we have insurance, unlike mopeds.
We got a lot of
The difference is
And I don't
though,
know what regulation there is on.
right, the
Right.
mopeds you can go get a license plate for, right?
Yeah.
Well-
But you can get a specific license actually that's authorized in the state of Indiana to drive one of those, even if you can't drive anything else.
Sir, I
I'm
think
not
under
sure.
49
CC.
CC.
you don't-
49.
You
don't
don't
have
have to have a
license.
license plate, you don't have to have insurance, you don't have to have a driver's
So there's,
license.
it's used to be 49 CCs and everybody
Yeah, less
still
than
uses that
50
language,
CCs,
it's
yeah.
changed. It also can't go above this speed limit, it has to be kick-started, there's a lot more rules to it than that at least. But you can get specific licenses for that. Your guys is you can't go and plate it right now at the DMV, correct?
Some you can.
Some you can.
And I think the
Okay.
mayor spoke to that.
Well, the ones that we're talking about are the ones that you can, obviously, right?
But you cannot.
Right.
You're talking about the
But
ones that you cannot.
the one that you can and the one that you can't are identical.
Same machine.
They're same
But there are
machine,
certain.
just a different
So the
brand.
ones that you can plate right now, it's a moot point because they can, since they're plated, they can
Right.
go anywhere.
Yeah, they can do
Yours
anything.
cannot be plated yet, so, yeah. So
That's what you're referring to.
the ones that cannot be plated, right.
And that there is no difference other than the name on, basically, it's a
Do they
Honda,
have-
Polaris, or Yamaha.
Who makes
Do
that
they have the same
decision?
equipment?
The manufacturer,
They make that decision?
they, whatever they put on the title.
Basically,
It's just-
it's just difference between Ford and Dodge and Chevy. They've all got roll cages,
seatbelts.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to lobby.
Harnesses, everything.
Some companies have better lobbyists than others.
What's that?
apparently.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it sounds like they need to
Speedometers.
lobby the
I mean,
manufacturers to
brake
change
lights,
that.
headlights. Some, I'm not sure if some cameras, not that we've been buying kits online and installing them ourselves.
Well, I
There
think
are
they should follow all motor
Street,
vehicle
yeah, exactly.
laws.
Well, you have to, no question.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
did you call the state police on what they told me?
I have not called the state police yet since yesterday.
I gave you an 800 number.
I have not had a chance. I've been very busy.
The state police told me that if the state takes care of the highways going through your town, they cannot ride those on the highways. If the city takes care of their snow removal on the state highways, and they do the paving, underneath paving, which Connersville doesn't do, then they're not allowed to drive on it.
They can cross state highways,
They can cross them,
and the
but they
ones,
cannot be on them.
well, the ones who have motorcycle license can be on, because we called the state police on that one. They can be on. I did not call that specific number, but they can be on. We talked to state police on that, because they're fully licensed. They can be on interstates. And, but the other ones cannot. They can only cross state highways. They can be on city streets, but they can't cross state highways. They can't be on state highways, they can only cross them.
Only cross them.
Yeah, unless they have a motorcycle license, then they can be on state highways. Because they're fully licensed. There's only a certain few that can do that, and it's just the way the manufacturer tagged them. But they're identical, absolutely identical.
Well, it's something that should be checked into with the
Yes.
state police.
We have.
Do you know approximately how many of these are in the area? I mean, it seems like you got a pretty good tally on who's in
The numbers have doubled.
Yeah, they're.
You go to any dealership and they hardly have any in stock anymore
Well,
because.
but I'm just asking for this area. Do you have any idea what,
County.
I mean, you talking 50, 100?
I know probably about 25 or 30. probably.
Okay, so,
And I mean, I don't know everybody.
Sure.
But
my other question is, what's the noise level on these things?
they're a lot quieter than a Harley.
Well, that's.
That's not weighed the same decibel as a stock Honda motorcycle, honestly.
They're not really loud. I mean, they're not nothing even comparable.
Right. Well, I get a lot of complaints for even right now. I mean, I like Harleys and the whole thing, what you guys are doing, I don't have a problem with, but I get a lot of complaints right now, just the noise level on various vehicles, and it's not just the motorcycles, it's people that aren't taking care of their trucks, whatever, and, you know, somebody's trying to sit out on their porch and
Well, actually,
one of these things comes through or whatever. So I'm just curious as
Yeah,
far as what.
they're not near as loud as some of these diesel trucks or
Right.
a lot of the stuff that run around.
Actually, by code, if they mess with their mufflers on there, you can be in violation, so you can get a fine for it.
Yeah.
And most, everybody I know runs stock exhaust. I mean, there's no reason to change it all, unless you're racing them, I guess.
Oh, it goes on. Any other comments from the public? I don't know if anyone's out there, I can't see. Chief, is anybody out there?
It's just my daughter and her friend.
I think there's two things that we might want to look at that was made mention here that's a good idea. One is there in fact a county ordinance still? And if so, is that something that we could look at to mimic or adopt similar to? And the other one is, if there is a sufficient state ordinance, would we have to have a local? So those are a couple things we can check.
The only benefit, if they're correct in the fact that there's not a county ordinance and that there's a state ordinance that, or the Indiana code essentially speaks to it and allows them, then the only reason you would want to have an ordinance is if you wanted to rein it in, if you want it to become more restrictive.
We could be less restrictive, but we can be more.
Correct. You could not, yes, correct. You could not, but you can't, for instance, you can't change the fact that they can travel along the interstate or the highway if the state said no. But if there's no county ordinance and the state ordinance makes you guys happy, then yeah, there would be no reason to have an ordinance unless you wanted to make it more restrictive.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on the call from the sheriff on that ordinance. He still hasn't replied to me.
On the state highway deal, where does it start, where does it stop according to State Road 1, Park Road, whatever?
As far as city limits.
Well,
City limits, yeah. It is city
so,
limits.
Yeah, he's saying like, say right in front of Concourse, you couldn't drive down, that's State Road 1, right?
Right.
That's state
so
You'd
the
have to
city
cross
should
it.
not be maintaining any part of Park Road then?
No, because we mow, there's different caveats there, but as far as the road, it's state controlled, the road, the highway is. Because we sweep it, we get paid to sweep it, we get paid for different things, so, even though it's their road.
Okay. I'm just like, is it Park Road or is it State Road 1?
It's state,
Both.
it's both.
I know, right? Well, in the right-hand lane is Park Road.
It's state controlled, anything that's state highway, you can't run, that's a registered state highway, so.
So, what about the sand rail dune buggies, the homemade vehicles that people, I mean,
That's-
that's
that's
That's Paul Lane's Island.
They
Yeah,
have license
license
plates that by, and I think there's something, I didn't look at that, I was told there was a difference, because they are fully licensed vehicles.
Yeah.
As long as it can be licensed in the state of Indiana, it can be driven on the state highways or interstates.
okay.
They just have to maintain all the DOT specifications, lights, turn signals, all that stuff.
And it's hard to compare vehicle to vehicle because in my younger days, I owned a motorcycle and rode it for years, but I wouldn't do it today. God bless you, all you guys who do, but just the other drivers, I wouldn't ride a bike.
Well, in reality, these are
And-
safer.
And
They're bigger, they're
Roll
the size of
cages.
a car, most cars,
Well, they have-
they're just,
Well,
actually, they're
and
designed to wreck.
the dune buckets you're talking about,
You're taking it back.
They're designed to wreck.
Well, they are, it's like a race car, it's designed to wreck. So,
and some of those things they call rails and stuff, I wouldn't want to drive around one. I like a lot of metal around, but it's, I mean, they're legal, you know,
AGE.
and a lot of people have mopeds because it's inexpensive mode of transportation when they maybe don't have a license anymore. So it's real hard to compare vehicle to vehicle.
Literally, that's why I got my Harley.
So Mayor, can we
Because
move
I felt
forward on
sick.
both of these then?
I think so. Jeff, got homework to do on those.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I think that really the state statute is really gonna clarify
Yep.
if we
Sure.
need to do anything or not.
Sure.
I guess the question will be is knowing which vehicles can ride down state highway, they just have to look for license plates. That's the only way to do it. And that license plate's small, it's a motorcycle plate.
And Jeff, as you read the statute, I think you'll find, and this becomes confusing, you can ride not on a state highway, but adjoining a state highway.
Alongside.
So if I wanted to ride down the grass by the railroad tracks on State Road 1, according to the statute, that's legal.
Because it's
It's
not, it's
surface
an
roads.
off-road vehicle.
Yeah.
Well, and even in
I'm
that,
on
it
private
gets,
property.
Huh?
I'm on private
It
property.
doesn't specify.
well,
Yes, it's
Yeah. It didn't, I don't
may.
think it specifies.
You go put in
Yeah,
dirt
it's
tracks in my
specified.
yard, you and I can discuss
I'd call and ask first.
it. You come to a donut in my yard, I know you.
let me help clarify what Pete's saying. According, again, I've been reading the state laws best I can, and it's my understanding that you ride in the right of way, which is allowed. You can ride in the right of way on a state highway as long as it is not a limited access highway, which is
Interstate.
an interstate or US 31 that goes up north. It's like it's as big as an interstate.
So
You
it
can't
is?
ride it. It's limited access. So
Total.
yeah, so as long as the state highway is not a quote limited access, which of course State Road 1 is not because there's driveways all over the place. So it gets real confusing.
Real
But
confusing,
you're
yeah.
right. You can ride in the right of way of state highways that are not limited access.
I'll put a toll booth in my front yard right now.
There you go.
I can see it coming. Okay,
Put some brick pillars right after it.
that I can't do, I'll get in trouble for that. Okay, Jeff, we'll do some research on that, we'll move forward on both of
Thank
those.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approving ordinance, item J, approving pending ordinance 3585 utility building. Brad, hey Greg, would you be able to stick around, or can I just call you tomorrow? I'll call you tomorrow, you don't have to stick around, you got a long drive.
Okay, either way's fine with me.
I'll call you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, we've been working for a few months on getting our language and ordinances updated to coincide with the law change that we had back in the legislature in March, which no longer allows us to collect a water bill from a landlord or hold a homeowner responsible. So Jeff has been working on updating the ordinance with Cindy and I, others, and this is the result. So we have one repeal, and we struck a line from another.
That's correct.
Yep.
And both of those is in regard to the landlords.
And the water portion of the bill. Yeah, sewer liens.
Sewer and
stormwater
stormwater
still exist. Those were not outlawed.
Correct. Very important distinction.
So for clarification, you can still collect this sewer and the,
They can be liened.
can be leaned against the landlord, but not the water portion.
The confusing thing for a lot of residents is every month they get a water bill. And that's, to them, that's their water bill. When water is really like a third of the cost. You have wastewater, you have stormwater, you have trash pickup, all on their water bill. So that's kind of throws people.
It doesn't even say water bill, it's utilities, kind of a utilities bill now, but it goes back to what it was called, what it was
Essentially
essentially.
says that. Clarence is asking a question, I hate to whisper it at the council meeting. He said essentially, what does this say? Really, the change to us is that we can no longer hold the landlord, and this is because the state code essentially changed.
Right.
We can no longer hold the landlord liable for the water portion of the utility bill. So
That's
their
the
water,
lowest, that's the lowest portion of it anyway.
but for their water bill portion, we had previously, they had signed a contract saying that they agreed to be responsible for their tenant for any water that was left unpaid. We can no longer do that. This cleans it up and puts us in conformity with the Indiana code.
So you can't collect it
I was
now?
gonna ask a question, I'm like, never mind. I rent it was in my name, I was gonna say, so it's never,
Well, the
but you
landlord, I paid
know,
a bunch of it, so.
but you know that you know the landlord's name, who owns the home, and you know that I was paying the water bill. That's the difference.
In the
That's how you know.
past, if you left and didn't pay your bill, we could collect it from them.
Right.
From both of you,
They would be
however we got
responsible.
first.
You got put back on the landlords.
Okay.
So then we're gonna have a lot of unpaid bills in.
Yep, we'll go back to those days again. There's quite a few of them. It used to be, when that ordinance first went into effect, I think we were writing off $20,000 some dollars a year in bills.
Now you're just writing off the water side, not the sewer. side.
Well, and you know, you lien some of them. Some of that gets liened still, so.
But when you pay your utility bill, you're actually paying for the water and sewer service you used 2 months ago. So when they skip out after not paying it for 2 months, you're actually 4 months of use that you're never going to get back.
So you can't send that portion to the collection bureau?
Well, we haven't had to, so those are things that we're talking about now.
Well, now, does that also affect if, say, they move from one place and leave it, and they try to, keep track, and you will not turn on
Yeah,
water?
sometimes somebody will come in and try to get in their account later on, and we'll get it eventually, so.
Right.
I mean, this is the phrase of getting blood from a turnip is where this comes into play.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get $1 million judgment against somebody, but if they won't work, if they won't do anything, it becomes really irrelevant.
Yeah.
And what that circumstance, what you'll see, what we'll start to see more of is that they'll have their cousin put the name in their water, or the water in their name, just to kind of clean that up, so their name's not gonna go. So it will create some problems.
They used to put it in their dog's name, but now we make them show an ID.
Wait till they start putting in their 12-year-old's name.
They've been known to do it in their kid's name too.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Well, recourse is collections, like you guys talked about, a recourse is, and I have no doubt Cindy will have an organization where when they come in, somebody will, if their name pops up, then they owe us money, then you clean it up that way. But quite honestly, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of it that you're just never gonna collect.
Yeah.
And you can try to collect it, but, I'll sue people and get a judgment and go after them, and they'll literally quit a job. So that I don't get paid, so that my client doesn't get paid.
And the unfortunate thing about that is all these people who won't pay, everybody else has to end up paying.
Correct.
Yep.
But this was a very landlord-friendly change in the Indiana Code. Right or wrong, I don't know what the right answer is, I don't know what the wrong answer is, but that's essentially what this was.
And that part I definitely agree with, because then people, I just don't think that a landlord should get stuck with somebody else's bill, because they probably haven't paid rent either, so.
Exactly.
True.
But that's what they're in business for.
Yeah, well,
That's what you're in business for. I mean, I'm not,
cause people not to go in that business.
well,
Believe me, don't get me started.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been a landlord.
Me either.
Yeah, no, I would.
Is there any other questions on this before this discussion goes off topic again?
I move we pass pending orders 3585, utility bill.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on first reading. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Give me a laugh and I'm gonna get messed up over here. Did we go through that? Any opposed, same sign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules. Mercy, you got me messed up.
Motion.
Second.
And a motion to suspend the rules. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And motion for third and final reading.
So
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And are we allowed to announce your appointee to the board? No, take that back. Okay. Sorry. Approval of pending orders 3586 traffic codes. I had mine, I went to the office. What were the others?
I've got some questions on that.
Okay. I won't write on that one.
Yeah, give me this one.
Go ahead.
Didn't we already pass this?
So here's what I think has happened, and I'm not sure where this is supposed to be the ordinance, the second one to repeal. So the one we just did is just replacing just a couple sentences in that one. This one was to repeal the full ordinance that deals with what, this is not the correct ordinance. So I don't know if that got,
Yeah,
where that got lost.
there were two. I just thought you'd wrap them up into one, I'm sorry.
I don't know one.
So this is
That's one.
wrong,
This is an old one that we did a while ago,
so we just need to,
we just pick it up at the next meeting, I
yeah,
suppose.
K and full K.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because that's already been done, right?
Yeah, this is done, this was done
But
a couple months ago.
I had asked.
There's a
earlier
problem
about
with that, though.
There is?
Yes. Section B says the southmost alley at the end of Jones Street, which is incorrect location.
Where is it?
Yeah.
B,
I know,
oh, where is it?
the southmost,
Southernmost.
southernmost,
It shouldn't be, it's gonna be the way this is
it'd be
reading.
east.
No.
No, the way this is reading, the alley's gonna come out State Police Post, and that's the incorrect alley. You need the second one up, which is the If you want to rewrite it, it'd be actually easier to rewrite it as the first alley south of John Street.
First
He
alley.
knows what
I think it reads well. Am I not reading it correctly?
To what?
John Street or Jones Street?
John.
Jones.
John.
This all says Jones.
Right,
That's why he's saying.
Oh.
He's saying the alley.
the alley, Jones Street is a street parallel with Vine Street.
So you're saying all the Jones should be John?
No,
You can bring it up on GIS.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here's a good example, Mr. Mayor. He's talking about that, he's correct.
it should be the first alley south of John Street on the west side.
We took John Street all the way out. On this, correct? Yeah.
Because the way this,
Well,
I see what you're
The
saying.
southernmost alley at the end of Jones is
Yeah,
the one you're
that's-
talking about.
Same
That's the
thing.
last
Yeah.
alley, right?
no, there's another alley south of that,
Oh, there is?
comes out right at State Police Post.
Yeah, you know where Kavanaugh's house is down there? That's one he's talking about, is the southernmost. So this is,
When I read that,
It's
I
not the
thought, wait a minute,
southernmost.
So
we
this
made a
map doesn't
mistake.
show that.
It's a very short alley.
yeah.
Did you find, were you able to get a GIS or just not going to go
What's that?
Never mind.
This right here is an alley.
Can you pull up GIS?
I thought he heard me.
Yes.
That's an alley right there. That's the southernmost alley.
We're going down to Jones and John Street.
Okay, so this is,
You're going the right direction.
okay, this is.
There's John.
Yeah. State police post is here.
Right across from the police post.
Yeah, the state police post, yeah.
There's an alley there.
Right there it is.
Yeah.
See it? That's the southernmost alley.
Yeah, right there would be.
That can't be a two-way. Well, it can be,
But
It
he's,
is
But that's
right
not
now, it
the one
sounds
we're
like.
talking about.
but by
That's not even-
definition it is, yes.
That's not even on there, is it?
It is, but it ends right there.
Yeah. Are you sure that's an alley going all the way out,
Yes.
not a private road?
that is,
It comes right out on Vine Street.
it's an incline up to Vine. And that's the alley he wants two-way.
That's the alley.
He just passed it.
Go north.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. That is an alley.
And if you go north again,
That's the
right,
alley you want two-way.
right there's the alley that we're
That's-
talking about.
So it's the first alley south of John Street
Correct.
on the west side.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We'll just repeal this, just what we do.
Well, we'll
repeal this.
we'll redo that, we're canceling item K for today, and we'll be doing this one for next time as well.
Sure.
So we can move on to L.
Okay.
Good catch, Clarence.
Yeah, it is.
Because,
Yes.
We need to get
Because
him
I forgot
high.
all about that alley.
yeah.
Couldn't see the alley.
Or blocking your phone.
Okay, approval of resolution 2020-56, infectious disease policy. Jeff, you want to explain this one again?
Sure. And this is brought before the Board of Works earlier today. This is essentially just a resolution to establish a city policy for city buildings, city structures, city property, on what to do during this issue. Obviously, it's nice to have clear rules so that all buildings are treated the same. If you walk into City Hall, or you walk in utilities, or you walk in wherever, the rules should be the same. So.
Questions? Anybody?
And we talked earlier about tweaking the language to make sure it's
Correct.
the buildings. and
It's more like departments,
Yeah.
buildings and departments versus, because we're not gonna make, Kunkel's follow these.
Right, it's not
or
citywide.
McDonald's
Right.
these, it's for
Right.
city departments and department heads. But we can go ahead and pass this tonight, and we'll have one to revise it in the future.
And the intention is that this is only we're only intending to impact city property.
There's no questions?
City employees,
City employees, city department heads, city is.
I move we pass resolution 2020-56.
second,
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay. Any old business?
Oh, that's not
I'm sorry.
that's not old business.
Miscellaneous business?
I have something.
There you go.
I was asked to talk about a program on August 20th. There will be free milk. The Gleaner's truck will also be at the old Kmart lot. The Gleaner's truck will be there that day from 4 to 7. And there will also be free milk, 4,000 gallons of free milk, and there's no limit. It's in conjunction with the, I was trying to pull it up on my phone, I lost it, I can't find it on Facebook again. It's the Health Council here in Fayette County and Gleaners and.
Yeah, Food Council.
The Food Council, yeah. So 4 to 7 on August 20th, this is Thursday. And you can get milk and food. I don't know what cleaners will have, but, and I don't think there are any qualifications or anything like that anybody can go through.
Not for the free milk, but for the Gleaner's food, there is qualifications.
For that one?
Isn't there?
I don't think
Always?
so on that one. The last time I saw it, people were just going through with their hatches, their back hatches up, and they were just putting food in there. Now, some of the, oh, yeah, okay, thank you, we found it. It's at 2500 North Park Road. It's East Central Indiana Critical Stress Management Team in partnership with Fayette County Food Council and Prairie Farms. And it's, it'll be Prairie Farms milk. I don't know, there'll probably be various types or whatever. I don't know what type or anything, but they're gonna have 4,000 gallons. And they wanna get the word out because they don't wanna have any left over.
Right.
They don't wanna be done with milk. So, 4 to 7, or until the milk is gone. 4 to 7, Thursday, August 20th at the old Kmart lot. And the Greener's truck will be there all at the same time.
So people can go just get the milk?
Yes, they can go get one, the other, or both.
It's a lot of milk.
Yes, it is.
Anybody else have a miscellaneous business? Nope. Public forum, anybody from the public out there? Nope, okay. Take a motion for adjournment.
so moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.